Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Talk Vermont, formerly the Racism in America Forum, sponsored by the Vermont Racial Justice Alliance, Mount Mansfield Community Television, and Good Shepherd Lutheran Church in Jericho, Vermont. My name is Arnold Isidore Thomas, and I am the pastor of Good Shepherd. When Black parents refer to the talk, it concerns the vital conversation they must have with their children if they're going to survive in a predominantly white and sometimes racially hostile environment, especially as it relates to their encounters with police officers. I imagine similar conversations occur among all families of color and oppressed communities. However, white Americans must also learn to have such conversations with each other and their children as to how they will learn to live in an increasingly multiracial, multicultural nation and world where they are no longer a part of the majority. Talk Vermont lends itself to a wide range of topics in which Vermonters of color invite you into our talk. These online conversations are financially supported by the Vermont Humanities Council, the Vermont Community Fund, and viewers like you. Your support provides the means for technical assistance and honoraria for our guest presenters. And we hope that you will donate to our efforts when you register to our programs. Please spread the word about those you may know who are part of your email or network of communications. Today, I am pleased to welcome members of Vermont Hispanic community to share their perspectives and experiences of living in one of the whitest states in the nation. The Hispanic population is the fastest growing ethnic community in both the state and the nation. And as any community, no one voice can speak for the whole. And Hispanic Americans represent a very wide diversity, including those who identify as white, multicultural, multiracial, Black, LGBTQ, Democrats, Republicans, independents, and more. But amid that diversity, there are also some common experiences. And we hope to learn a bit of both through our panelists today. And they are Cacique Rodriguez, Sarah Childs, Coralie Kotrina, and Arlene Furman. They will further introduce themselves when they present. And then after their presentations, we will allow time for questions and conversations. And one of the things we need to acknowledge, and I offer my apologies, is that this program is not a bilingual or multilingual program, and that's a correction that needs to be made. And we will attempt to do so in the future. This is a local community program channel, and so this is a learning curve that we will need to adjust to, and will welcome such adjustments. So without further delay, let me turn the conversation over to our panelists, Cacique, Sarah, Coralie, and Arlene. It is so good to have you here. Before I do that again, one of the things you should know is our format is such where we will devote the first half hour to 45 minutes to the presentation from our panelists, and then devote the remainder of the time to questions, conversations, observations that you as viewers might have. And we hope to end about 8:30. So let's begin. Welcome, panelists.
Thank you for having me, Arnold.
You're most welcome.
Okay, I guess I'll be the first one to jump out the window and break the ice for everyone else. Well, my name is Cacique. And the term or the name cacique is a Taino Indian word from the Caribbean islands, but specifically Puerto Rico, which means chief or leader. And I was given that title by a youth organization that I used to mentor in New York City and the Bronx, specifically called Muérete. And they were about racial equality and uplifting our people. So I decided to take that name on as my moniker. I use it in my poetry as well when I do speak, because that's what I feel I am. I'm a chief or a leader in everything I do. As I said, I alluded to, I was born and raised in New York City, specifically the Bronx. I am 54 years old, so I came up in an era where respect was the number one thing on everyone's agenda. Pride in who we were as a people, specifically being Puerto Rican. And we teach that to our children. I moved up to Vermont in 2015 to get away from all of the nonsense that was happening in New York City. I came up here with my kids and I came up here with my wife. And one of the first things somebody told me at Costco was, I can't help you. You're not from here. You are a flatlander. I didn't know what that term meant. So I went and looked it up because I like to know things. And a flatlander is a person that's not from Vermont. Those that are born and raised in Vermont are woodchucks. That's what they refer to themselves to, I guess because of the trees. One of the things I learned fast was Vermont is the second whitest state in this country, only being beaten by Maine by less than 1%, or maybe even 1%. What does that tell me? None of my people exist in Vermont. I'm going to be plain and clear. We make up less than 1%. And when I say we, I'm talking about Spanish-speaking people in particular. When I find someone or I hear someone when I'm shopping speaking Spanish, I get a joy because I'm actually hearing my language. So it's hard to live in a state where you're systematically singled out as being different, whether it's because of the way I look, my speech. People tell me I have an accent. I think I speak English, but because I'm not from Vermont, I have an accent. And the language I speak, and my name alone makes people turn eyes. My experiences in Vermont have not been pleasant. There are some good people in Vermont. I'm not going to lie. There are some good white people in Vermont. Let me emphasize that. There are some good, decent white people in Vermont. But overall, it's been my experience that most of them are not. And if they could live 70 years ago, 100 years ago, then they would gladly do that. Because Vermonters live in a bubble. What do I mean by that? They believe that everything else that happens in the nation doesn't affect Vermont. Let that sink in. Everything that happens in the nation, systemic racism, police killings, the brutality and the murdering of our people does not happen in Vermont. I've learned that people that went to the city 30 years ago had a bad experience. They think everybody from New York is that way. And it's a shame because we label each other Black, white, Spanish, Latino. They're from Africa. Before this country was taken, robbed from the Native Americans, there were no borders. There were no labels. Everyone roamed this country and this land freely. But the second borders were put up, in this case, state lines, you started creating division. And that's important to realize. Division is created through labels. I consider myself a human being. Everybody on this panel is a human being. But when I start saying, well, that white person or that Indian person, I'm creating a division, either to think that I'm better than them or I'm lesser than them. And what I've learned in living in Vermont for 8 years, excuse me, and not everybody has my well-being at heart. And even though Vermont really totes itself on being a liberal state, a progressive state, always forward thinking, a lot of the things that people are thinking is archaic and in the past. Just recently, they put to change the wording in Vermont's constitution with slavery. Why did it take so long for that to be taken out? Change has to start at the top. And I'm not talking about the top of me. I'm talking about the very top of government. No one represents me in Vermont's Senate. I think everyone in Vermont is white. I may be wrong, but I don't have no representation in the Senate here. I have no one that speaks for me. So I got to speak for myself. The problem is when I speak for myself, I'm an antagonist. If I bring up certain social inequalities, social racial inequalities, I'm an inciter. And I know everyone in this panel in some shape, fashion, or form has heard, well, that's not who I am, when we talk about the atrocities that are continuing to be visited upon our people. And when I say our people, I'm including everyone that is, the new title is people of color. BIPOC, that's the new title that they've given us. Black, Spanish, all my people. I refer brother and sister to everyone. The reality is change is not going to come unless we change the people that are in leadership positions. Because through changing the people that are in leadership positions, that is how we're going to get equality for the people of color living in Vermont. That is how we're going to be able to go and sit on a Senate seat without fear of retaliation from whites who want to keep everything segregated. Or everyone knows this saying, you know, make America great again. That slogan. They want to live in the past. So I can't respect a person who doesn't want change. I can't respect a person who's opposite or opposed to changing the status quo, the haves and the have-nots. I've also learned living in Vermont that racial discrimination exists, but is hidden in the guise of background checks. I don't want you to have a job, but I can't deny you because you're Black or you're Latino or you're Spanish. So I'm going to do a background check. And if we find anything, you're not going to get the job. That's a reality here in Vermont, even though the law says you can't ask a person outright on a job application, are you a convicted felon? They get around that by doing background checks and denying you that way. We have to get rid of this mentality that we are less than because we're of a different shade. See my complexion? I'm not sure if the lighting is good, but I'm considered a white Hispanic. Where someone that's from Puerto Rico that's dark as night would be Black. When we start getting rid of this mentality, when we start getting rid of these labels, then we're going to see the change we need to see. But we have to do it amongst ourselves first. And here's the harsh reality. We're harder on ourselves than we are on our opposition. What do I mean by that? I grew up, and I hate to say it now, but I grew up not liking Dominicans, not liking Mexicans. I realize how stupid that is. Excuse me, I don't know if I can say that, but I realized how stupid that mentality was, but that was the era that I grew up in because I was born, raised to be proud Puerto Rican. Yo soy boricua hasta la muerte is the refrain, is the saying. Hasta la muerte yo soy boricua, huepa. And that's what I live my life as. But I've also come to love everybody that speaks Spanish because we're all one people. We're all one nation. Now, just a real quick point, and then I'll pass it on to the next person. The biggest misconception is that people that speak Spanish are Hispanic. Hispanics are from Spain. If you're from Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, any of those Caribbean islands, you are Caribbean. If you're from Latin America, which is Mexico, Central and South America, then you are Latino. We have to get away from saying that we're Hispanic because I'm not from Spain. I'm a New Yorican, to be honest. I'm New Yorican because I was born in New York. I'm a New Yorican, but I love my island and I love my people. And when I say my people, everybody that speaks Spanish, even those people from Spain, because they were not the ones who brought our ancestors over here. They were not the ones who enslaved my ancestors. And that's the reality. So to change a thing, we have to change the way we think. And when we change the way we think, we have to act and behave according to our thoughts, and then teach that to everyone else. I thank you for your time and for hearing me out. And with that, I'm going to close.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cacique. And let's hear from others.
I'm happy to go. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Childs. I usually hear ella pronouns. My name looks like a Gringa name for sure, but there's more of a story there too. But I'm multiracial. My dad, I say, is a white boy from upstate New York, from the Corning area, and met a cute Mexican Chinese lady from Tucson, Arizona when they were in college. So I'm multiracial. I grew up with my mom's family. My grandmother was from central Mexico, the state of Aguascalientes. So I have a lot of family there still. I'm very proud of my Mexican ancestry, and my grandfather's side is Chinese American, first or second generation, depending on when Hawaii became a state. So I grew up with my mom's family, especially the Mexican family. And I think words are really interesting. It's interesting how language has changed just in my lifetime. I am 40 years old. Like I said, I was born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, about 60 miles north of the Mexican border with the state of Sonora, Mexico. And grew up all my life until I went off to grad school in Arizona. I came to Vermont for my master's program at the University of Vermont in 2006, finished in 2008, went to Texas, then went to Indiana, and came back to Vermont for a second time in January 2013. And I work in multicultural affairs. I work a lot with students of color. And yeah, we do say that the word commonly now, BIPOC. Just like when I was in college, I was in the Hispanic Honor Society, and I participated in the Hispanic Convocation where I went to school in Northern Arizona. So language has changed a lot. As a term, I personally don't care for the word Hispanic so much. I feel like it's pretty outdated. I think Cacique, sort of referred to that a little bit. I also think it's a word that has been used in really problematic ways. And when it's been convenient for the US government to exclude or include, Mexicans in earlier years in our country. I generally prefer the word, there's Latinx, Latine, Latina, Latino. I just feel like the way I use it, I feel like I use it to be more inclusive of people, including, Brazilians who are, not Spanish speaking, Portuguese speaking, people from the Caribbean, people from Mexico. And as someone who's lived in the United States, well, I should say too, as part of my identity, I definitely identify as Chicana because I am Mexican American. too. I'm proud to be multiracial, but I grew up so much in Mexican culture too. It's just in Chinese culture, that's my kin. Like I love my dad's family too, but I grew up with my mom's family in such a collectivist culture and really connected to family in Mexico still and some in the United States. And I mean, growing up in Arizona in the Southwest, it's just in me. I learned how to speak Spanish from my grandma and really lived in a Mexican household, grew up Mexican Catholic. A lot was Mexican in my life. I forgot what I was going to say, but I was going to say, living in Vermont twice now, I've been surprised at some things in some good ways and some ways that have challenged me a lot. When I first came to Vermont as a student who had just graduated with my bachelor's degree from Arizona, I was in this program for students of color through a national association. So ironically, I came to one of the whitest states in the country, but really connected with the community of color here at UVM, where the program was hosted. And that time, I remember how much smaller the community of color, collectively felt in 2005 or so, the summer of 2005, like really noticeably different, just being in the Burlington area, the greater Burlington area. And so I left after I finished my master's degree. I loved my experience here. Actually, I had a wonderful community at UVM that included a lot of faculty and staff of color and some students. So it was a really awesome community. And then one aspect that actually brought me back was the community of color. Some people that have been in the community for a while, like Bev Colston, but a lot of other people as well. I'm sorry, Beverly Belayo, excuse me. And I've just found community, and that's been very surprising in all these years, especially considering how it felt back in 2005 when I came for just a summer and returned in the fall of 2006 to start my grad program. And I know that it can, in parts, feel very white and feel very lonely and isolating sometimes, but I also see how the community has grown a lot, pretty broadly, and there's a bit of everything now. It might be smaller, a little bit harder to find, less obvious, but I feel like there's a lot there. There's a lot of good work that people are doing in different organizations and just, naturally in different parts of the state. And there is a lot more available than even then. That's not to say that I don't miss a lot still, that I might find in a bigger community or certain things that are specific to, where I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, or, the Southwest. But little by little, I see how there's growth. That doesn't mean that it's not hard for people in some particular communities more than others, but I do see the growth. I see, like last night, I went to BIPOC yoga at Laughing River Yoga Studio. That's pretty cool. And it's a pretty diverse group of people. Yoga instructors are different people of color. The audience is comprised of different people of color. That's something that it didn't exist years ago. Or there's the Vermont Professionals of Color Network, which is awesome and has done a lot of really good work the last, 3 to 4 years in bringing different communities together. I work in higher education, and so I see how certain problems continue to persist. It feels, similar to when I was a grad student, but also, it's dependent on where I've worked to and what community I've been part of. I see from my students how things can be really hard because I work a lot with students of color from lots of different backgrounds. And so I see how some things are similar to students I worked with back in 2006 at UVM, and how things are similar now for students, but also different in some ways. Like there might be a little bit more available. But also the state is in some ways, as a whole, still manages to be one of the whitest states in the country, despite it feeling like certain communities have grown. You know, we even have even more new American communities. When I was in grad school, it felt a bit more like Vietnamese and Bosnian folks, and now it's Iraqi, Syrian, Congolese, et cetera, et cetera. But I also see, you know, how people have really been able to lean on community in some ways, lean on their Latino community, lean on the greater BIPOC community to build and be innovative in some ways. I've been thinking of like the Latinos in Vermont Facebook group. Like I see some opportunities on there, and that didn't exist years ago, you know. So I just see little growth here and there. I feel like I'm rambling, so I'm gonna stop there. But I just see how there's been opportunity. There are challenges sometimes. We certainly have a long way to go. But I think from where I sit, I see how a lot of people want to do really good work too.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much. And thank you, Cacique. Both of what you shared has been eye-opening, I'm sure, for many. But let's continue this conversation. Arlene or Coralie, who wants to go afterwards?
Me va a coger a mí, me va a coger a
Volunteer,
mí.
Arlene.
I've seen you already.
Volunteer, Arlene.
No, Coralie already volunteered me. It's fine.
Okay,
I've seen the
Okay.
nod.
that's fine.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, esteemed panelists. Welcome, beloved audience members. My name is Arlene Furman. I am a born and raised New Yorker. I am from money-making Manhattan and resided for the majority of my life in several of the boroughs, with the majority in Brooklyn. I am a mom and a returning college student. My passion and profession is in EMT. I've been in EMT since 2008, and I'm actually recertifying again. I actually responded to 9/11 and lost 3 friends. So I'll start there. I am a 100% Dominican. So Cacique, I'm glad that we don't have any problems. 100% Dominican. I am a first-generation child born here in the Americas. My parents were born and immigrated from the Dominican Republic. And as a child who witnessed what the immigration line looks like, it is unrealistic to think waiting 20 years for your citizenship and you're still paying taxes and treated as a second-class citizen is a path to being accepted in a country that doesn't agree with you, being there in general. I've seen my parents pay ridiculous taxes, lawyers, hearings, random stops at the house just to make sure that they are who they are. And that's traumatizing for a kid. And that is what we call the American way. And I had a front row seat to that. English is not my first language, despite me speaking quite eloquently. The reason why I speak so eloquently is because my parents slaved for a private education for me and my 2 other siblings, which is why I speak so polite. But make no mistake, I let everyone know when the knives are out. That being said, I am a community member. I was when I first moved here into the state of Vermont back in 2015. I lived in the town of Winooski, and I threw myself into the thralls of parent advocacy there, as having parent advocacy experience in New York City. I was a parent advocate and freely, readily, availably through my time for whenever there was a racial disparity, an IEP disparity, or where there was just a real serious disconnect of where teachers and community needed to connect and resolve their differences for the betterment of the child's education. I brought that here in Vermont, and they don't like that. And I say that emphatically. School districts need to start embracing parents that know how to read a FERPA. I leave that homework for the attendees, what a FERPA is. I also realized how much of a decimate the budget is here for children who are in public schools in Vermont, which is abysmal, realizing how much taxes Vermonters pay. I don't know where all that money goes, but it should go into your schools because your children should pronounce their T's. And I'm not saying that as a slight. I'm saying that as a recognition of what the news wrote, which I find insulting to all those children. That being said, I moved over to Auburn, where I did a little bit of work there, Alburg, Vermont. There was a bigger shock there where there is really no diversity. It seems the northern you get, the lack of brown there is. And that's concerning for a state that prides itself on Bernie Sanders. We're so great. We're so dope. It's not a slight at Bernie, but that's a recognition of the disconnect that I see as someone who can look at legislative work, can look at materials for education, and acknowledge that there is a severe disconnect between policymakers and communities that is shocking and very lamentable. Now, a side note, prior to me moving to Vermont, I did do work with a help organization back in 2003, and I'm quite proud of it. I and many other families that were a part of help organization, we rode out to Albany and we made sure that homeless children received IEP, specialized education, assistance and services for children. We all got arrested, and I'm proud of it. And Help Organization USA paid for the ticket, and I'm happy for that. But there was significant legislative change. So that I do tip my hat to the parents. Change is possible, but it looks aggressive, and sometimes it has to be. You might have to get arrested to make a point, but peacefully, not aggressively. That being said, nobody's getting locked up. Now, back to Vermont. I am a Black Affinity Space council member. I work around wonderful men and women who assist in cultural diversity awareness with other legislative members, and we make it our business to assist in helping them understand where the disconnect is. Sometimes it's not easily recognizable, even with all of the powerful voices that we have in the room. It is a very slow process. However, I hope for process. I hope for progress. That being said, I do want to say there needs to be, for all of the people that are white in this state, we as BIPOC people here in the panel, and I can say this confidently here, it can't be from us all the time. It needs to be from you. It needs to be from you on what you want to see. We appreciate all of you saying you want us here, but do you really? I need you to show that emphatically in your school boards, in your voting booths, in your towns, at the grocery store. Help us feel included, because without us, you're in trouble. And that's not me saying it. That's your budget. And that's free information. Okay. For a little bit more background of me, currently a Canton student at SUNY University. My goal is to graduate in 2026 with a bachelor's in emergency management. my goal is to apply my skills as an emergency manager and background as an EMT for the good of all and apply for FEMA or the private sector that would mitigate response and disasters, hazard relief and response. Yes, it's a lot, but it's worth it because that work absolutely responds to community and what a community would need in an effective, immediate response, much like racism. It requires an immediate response. So I guess I'm using and applying some of those skills now in mitigation and what that would look like. My parents are from Dominican Republic. I don't think I mentioned that. Where they were from, my mother is from the capital, el barrio de San Carlos. My father is from Wayubing and was raised in the capital, Santo Domingo. All of my family are migrated and immigrated here, yet few of them are still in Dominican Republic. And we are all first generation children here. We successfully migrated by a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that didn't go well acknowledged by those here. Being in Vermont, I can say that it is, especially after COVID, I can say it is a very difficult time in the world right now, especially here in Vermont, where, as Cacique has put it, there is a sort of bubble mentality. And I mean that in the sense of Vermont is in between some of the most technologically advanced states, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Canada. And it is technologically 30 years regressed. Some light poles are no older than my 17-year-old. That says a lot, okay? I'm also taken aback by working with a wonderful gentleman by the name of Stuart, and his parents were both council members, both educators, and they sat on the select board for an area in Vermont. And he told me how he doesn't even believe in the education system of public education here in Vermont because his own neighbors don't even like Wi-Fi access for their own neighbors. And this is a Vermonter saying that to me. And I asked him, well, what do you do for your children's education? He says, honestly, I go broke sending them to private school because I don't want my children around neighbors that think that way. So the bubble mentality furthers itself because progressive movement feels stifled. And I offer that to the attendants here to reflect and look at that and take it to your neighbors and help your neighbors understand that a lot of your neighbors are quietly tired of it and they'll leave and they will take that young generation that you desperately need with them and they won't come back. Okay. I hope that we can all expand anyone's intellect or understanding of what Latinos are. If you need a translation, please let me know. And Coralie, it's your turn. And with that, I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene. Thank you so much. Coralie, is all yours.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. First of all, it is an honor to be surrounded, all of you. I just wanted to hear, and it's been actually made my whole month to be with like-minded people. There's not much more to say from me. I think they said it all, but let's talk a little bit about me and my background. Coralie Cotrina. I'm original from Peru, South America. I came here in 1999, where literally I think I was the only alien for 50 kilometers around me. And it just felt that way constantly. When I arrived here, I was walking around, like I felt people constantly looking at me and not in a good way, in that very suspicious way. I felt very unwelcome from the very beginning. So it's no surprising. I even got arrested as when I was a passenger, as a passenger. Yeah, because the person had a broken windshield, and all of a sudden, because they couldn't find nothing wrong with the driver, they went after me. And so yeah, but those experiences really helped me to be who I am today. After that, I realized the deeper issue that is carrying within this society. And I decided to help launch migrant justice in the beginning of the first meetings. I was part of that. I helped with that. I was strongly a believer that we needed to have organizations and leaders rise up. From the very beginning, I decided to get my master's degree in sustainable development through SIT, School of International Training, where I have a wonderful set of large, diverse professors and students. I never felt more at home when I was there in those years. I've been working in social justice for more than 15 years, especially in equity, educational equity. Burlington School District, I started as an AmeriCorps there, and multicultural diversity, outreach diversity program, where we did a lot of damage at that time, and also helped to launch the international festival that's still running there at Edmonds Elementary School. I was the one who originated that. We brought Native Americans to bless the festival, and it's still going, still going, and it's nice to see. Just to create some awareness, it was for immigrants and refugees. Then I continue my community organizing work in Winooski. Founder the Winooski Parents and Student Project, who is a grassroots community organizing initiative led only by immigrants and refugees like me, who are deciding to take matters in our own hands. We don't need saviors, no matter what color they are. We can save ourselves, and we just need a fair share of power and resources, believe it or not. That's all it takes to truly do social justice. We don't need a box of food. You don't need your charity stuff. You can keep it. We just need our fair share of power and resources. That's all, That's true social change right there. And yeah, we can take ourselves out of the mud if we have that, like everybody else. We're survivors, really. We don't need people to try to save us. And yeah, this grassroots community organizing effort was behind the advocacy effort, the 300 Main Street, to stop the eviction there. We organized them, and with the support of already the leaders around Winooski, we gained a lot of momentum. We also are being behind the advocacy efforts, the school buses that are right now running in the Winooski School District. That campaign or issue It started in 2013, even before I joined the fight in 2018, 19. And those parents were ignored since 2013. This is how long this has been, you know. So just for you to tell what it takes for us to really do advocacy work, but we're relentless and we're persistent and we're not going anywhere. We're just going, and more of us are coming. Just get ready, like it or not. We're like bunnies. We literally are. Or cuis, like in my country say. Like guinea pigs, those are part of my culture. And anyhow, yeah, I started the fight. Parents from cultures like Nepal, Somali, Congo, Burundi, Arabic, all of them united by one cause, trying to get reliable transportation for UNUSCA students. And oh boy, they put everything on the books there, from no budget, no money, to lack of drivers. And we even create our own bus driving training program. And all those drivers were trained by this project. Now they're driving and helping their own community. So it's been very successful so far. And now I really wanted to show them that we are not part of the problem, like they're always showing on the news. We are really part of the solution. We are the solution, not only part of the solution, but we are the solution, not only to our problems, but to many different issues that our community as a whole is facing. We're providing with professionals who otherwise this community wouldn't have, and it's serving not only immigrants and refugee students in Winooski, but all of them. So it's about time that people, acknowledge that we are the solution, not just now, but that's the reason they have us like slaves, invisible slaves on the farmers, right? If we weren't part of the solution, they wouldn't keep us there. Yeah, it's about time for recognition of the strength and all the work that has been done for many communities, Latin American communities. And that brought me to another point. Yeah, I was kind of bothered by the definition that it was sent to me by email of who I should feel, how I should define myself as Hispanic because I speak Spanish. I was like, sorry, but you're not going to tell me how. The definition of me. Yes, cacique, hermano, mi jefe, cacique in my country, it means jefe is the jefe of the whole crown. Sí, jefe, you are so right. Latinos are from Latin America, Caribbeans from the Caribbean. I mean, it's just Hispanics are from Spain. That's how it is, at least for us. I'm proud to be Latina and be with my brothers and sisters here, and it's very, very, very joyful. Hopefully, this enlighten you a little bit. We wanted to unite it. The Winooski Parents and Students Project wanted to unite the voices and the strength of all the different immigrants from refugee communities, because we're all treated like that. We're all treated like aliens. We're all treated like foreigners, and we're all treated like we do not belong here. no matter how shade, how dark or light you are, you have an accent, you don't have blue eyes, and yeah, you don't belong. The funny thing, I have to actually say this because this goes to all of the people who, my first name is Olga. And my last name, very last name is Bisbee. So if you put Olga C. Bisbee, you imagine, and yes, exactly, a blonde, blue eyes, somebody from, Europe. And and that is the reason why many times people have called me by my resume, for my resume. And they have hang up on me after they have heard my heavy accent, because I do have a heavy accent. And literally, in this not was one time, 2 times, it was several times. So people in Vermont, sorry to break it up to you, but racism really exists. And it's not just individual, because there are some people who are not, the black shapes. Not only that, it's not sporadic, it's also systematic. And so I wanted to just make sure that is understood, that is acknowledged, because since if we do not acknowledge that of our society, then there's no way how to move forward. Okay, doesn't matter how progressive we want to look to the world, we're not. We're actually kind of behind. Arlene just mentioned it. It's like when you pass the border between New Hampshire, New York, it's like you entering like the dark zone, like this new zone that is out of the map. There are not even many Americans who know of Vermont. So literally, it's just like this. We're kind of behind, quite a bit behind, in many different things. To say that we have Ku Klux Klan groups here is our reality. Sad to say, but I have to say it, I mean, I don't know how many, it still blows my mind. Like literally, it's like, like how we can say we're so progressive. I cannot even comprehend when we have more than one group of Ku Klux Klans among our neighbors. Our neighbors. Hello, people, are you listening to this? If that doesn't make you jump out of your seat and say, like, this is a crisis, this is bad, we need to do something now about racism and the thing, I don't know what else it's gonna do. I really do not know what else will do to you. And you need, in order to actually take action. And you don't need to, go to the streets or get arrested like Arlene. I mean, she's a bad, ASS. But it is about the change start really within yourself. It's truly about you as an individual and the people that you influence, your kids, your friends, your family. That's all. I mean, if you can just start with you and actually be the change that the world wants to see, that's that's literally what it takes to make change in our society. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Coralie. And I see there's another individual that I'd like to acknowledge, Geraldo Gomez. If you wish to share a few thoughts, that would also be appreciated.
Hermano, if you want to talk in Spanish, ¿quieres hablar en español? Habla nomás en español y porque traduzcan.
And anyone who wishes to translate, that would be great.
Am I going to be translating, or is Coralie going to be translating?
Well, since you spoke up, Arlene, why don't you be the first? That'll teach you.
Slaps my hand. Okay.
Go ahead,
slow.
Gerardo.
Go slow.
I'll take it anytime, Arlene, too. So just let me know.
Thank you.
You'll have to unmute yourself, Gerardo.
Quita para hablar, hay un micrófono ahí, dale el botón ahí. Ahí
Ahora
quedó.
Ahora sí.
Sí.
Me callo porque si no nos vamos. No, claro, boludo. ¿Vos que estás ahí al lado? No, porque somos dos acá.
Arlene, I will take on. I'll take on.
Oh, okay, because you know it's your, okay, you know what I'm saying?
They speak too fast.
Right.
if not, I
I speak
got it.
Dominican fast. You speak damn fast. Yeah,
If not, I got it too. That's fine.
I think they beat you.
Gerardo, por
Bueno,
favor,
buenas noches.
preséntate.
Bueno, buenas noches. Good evening, everyone. Well, I will speak half English and half Spanish. So, my name is Gerardo. I'm from Uruguay. I am 31 years old. I'm living with my friend Federico. It's next to me. Yeah. Well, I live here in Vermont since April last year. Well, I think that this place for me is good. I will speak Spanish just a little.
Dale, dale ahí en español.
Pienso que
Vamos a traducir, dale.
sí, muchas gracias.
Sin
Thank
pena,
you.
dale.
Gracias. Es un esfuerzo para mí, o sea, dejar todo en casa, dejé mi trabajo, fue mucho, es difícil. La vida del inmigrante acá es difícil, pero ustedes me entienden, que están de ese lado. Es difícil. Cada país tiene su problema, su problemática. Entonces, bueno, uno que viene de lejos, viene con una valija llena de sueños, llena de expectativas. Entonces uno llega acá y dice, bueno, ¿para dónde voy? ¿Para dónde arranco? ¿Qué es lo que hago? ¿Qué es lo que voy a hacer? Pero por suerte siempre hay gente que está dispuesta a ayudar, a tender una mano, amigos o conocidos.
Gerardo,
un poquito de tiempo.
Gerardo, denos la
Sí.
oportunidad de traducir lo que dijiste a la gente, ¿ok? Give us
Ok,
chance,
estoy
give us a chance to translate for you. So
Cada
he,
cuatro
okay.
oraciones. Cada
Yeah.
cuatro oraciones.
so he basically said that it was a struggle for him to leave where he lived, that he's from Uruguay, and it took a lot for him to pack up and leave everything behind to start a new life in this country. And he didn't know where to go or how to do it, but he came here with a lot of hopes and dreams. And even though every country has their problems, there's always people out there that are willing to help to uplift other people. And since, you know, he decided, I got my dreams and I got my hopes, and I'm gonna pursue what my future is. And he knows it was a struggle, but he landed here in Vermont, and he's making his dreams a reality. He's making his dreams come true with the help of other people that helped him establish himself here, and groups like this. And that this is a good thing for him, because it's basically giving him the el ánimo, giving him the strength and the hope. Thank you, the hope
Motivation.
that he didn't make a bad decision coming here.
Continúo.
Sí,
por
continúa.
favor.
Sí, permiso. Muchas gracias por la traducción. Muchas gracias.
Orden.
Anytime. Bueno, con respecto, bueno, a todo la temática. Creo que acá, cuando uno llega, se encuentra con mucha gente que está en la misma situación. ¿Tá? Gente que, bueno, que capaz que por ahí tiene más facilidad con el idioma, ¿no? El idioma, uno cuando llega acá, el choque cultural es grande. Allá, por ejemplo, en Uruguay, un país chiquitito, somos 3 gatos locos, por así decirlo. Prácticamente el inglés, no sé, no se escucha. Quizás portugués por la frontera con Brasil, pero el inglés uno no lo maneja, pero se enseña, obviamente. Entonces, bueno. Ok. Me estaba diciendo acá que hable más despacio para la traducción. Sí, te doy tiempo.
¿Quieres?
Bueno, una cosa que quiero agregar es que, bueno, que el choque cultural, como dije, principalmente el inglés, ¿qué más? Las reglas de acá, la convivencia, que uno tiene que respetar. O sea, obviamente que hay que respetar sí o sí, pero bueno, hay gente de todos lados y creo que a veces chocamos con otras personas quizás por la educación. Uno no se va a encontrar con gente que tenga la misma educación, quizás es complicado, pero lo bueno es que todos llegamos a convivir y a respetarnos los unos a los otros.
Okay, Gerardo. So and this is his words, I'm translating. With respect to the panel here, most of us speak English, so it's a little easier for us. But for them, the country he lives in, English is rarely heard. And it might be heard on the borders of Brazil because, Brazil has English, Portugal, and some Spanish. But that for him, it's a culture shock to come here and not really speak the language. And that is a huge barrier. Okay, not just the language, but educationally as well. It's a huge barrier. And he forges ahead and ¿qué más fue?
The culture shock was a significant instance where he finds difficulty. He finds assimilation with other people that have come here and have a difficulty understanding the language, as the language barriers here are not readily addressed or corrected. And when regards to his English, I'm going to say it. You sound like 3 cats. Meow, meow, meow. So I like that. I haven't heard that since grade school. Basically, the culture shock was something that was, a much more significant impact to him when he came here. Yet he still presses on, as Cacique stated. The lack of education in culmination with the culture shock is a significant issue, because people lose their bounds of propriety and lack of respect with one another, and that has happened to him. He does not let that weigh him down in his goals for aspirations being here in America. He wants to just go ahead and continue and press on forward. He believes in respect for one another, and basically hopes to attain the goals that he wishes, which is become an American and stabilization here. He's just, hopeful that the lack of education will grow, and there can be more expanse in understanding culture and respecting one another's culture, and bridging that divide and that gap. He found it a little bit difficult, and I didn't bring this up, he found it a little bit difficult in understanding the rules and the ordinances of things because of the language barrier. People were not readily available to assist him. And he just wishes that there was more availability in that area here in Vermont. Did I miss anything, Gerardo?
Yeah, I think what he also mentioned was the fact that he had a lot of trouble with the rules here in society,
Laws,
because
law,
especially
yes.
Lo leye, thank you.
the laws and the rules, because we in our country things operate different, and the laws, even the way we implement our laws are quite different. So that, you know, and that's true for a lot of people, immigrants, for Latin America. This is yeah, we try to respect, but exactly how things are here, but it's quite different than where we're from. So it's not like we have experience trying to do that, and that's a big it is true for many of us, especially in the beginning. So yeah, and I think everything else was covered. You want to continue, Gerardo?
¿Quieres seguir?
Yes, sí,
Sí,
yes.
sí, dale.
Ahora me ven, sí, porque activé
Ya,
la
sí,
cámara
Te
recién,
veo.
pero
Un
Te
placer.
veo,
todo bien.
te veo.
Un
Good to
placer.
see
Sí,
you.
muy
Arlo.
bien.
Ok. Bueno, continuando un poco con mi experiencia, a lo que voy de acá de tiempo, lo que yo puedo destacar de los americanos con los que he interactuado, se portaron bien conmigo, la verdad, 10 puntos, bien. Gente educada, gente amable. Si te tienen que dar una mano, te la dan cuando uno precise. En mi caso, en mi punto de vista, solo una vez tuve un pequeño inconveniente en un bar, pero fue una tontería, malentendido con un muchacho. Pero pues en el resto de lo que voy acá en Vermont, con mis colegas de trabajo, con bueno, gente que conozco, conocidos, bien. La verdad que no tengo nada de negativo en contra de ellos. Al contrario, acá en Vermont, hablo de acá en Vermont, no lo sé en el resto de otros estados, los americanos de otros estados no lo sé, pero mi punto de vista desde acá, buena gente, la verdad que no tengo quejas, pero hasta el momento.
So he's basically saying from his experiences being here and only in Vermont, he doesn't know how people are in other places. But here in Vermont, everyone that he has dealt with, people that he works with, his experiences, they're 10 out of 10. They're gems. They've helped him along. They've helped him out, and he has no issues with them whatsoever. They're great with him, his colleagues, his coworkers, the people that he deals with. He had one small incident when he went out one night with some guy, and we know how it is downtown Burlington or wherever the bar scenes are at, how people can get. So he had one small little incident, but it didn't turn into anything big or anything of that nature. And he basically says that from his experiences here, in a nutshell, people he's dealt with have treated him beautifully. He has no issues with the people he has dealt with. Again, he doesn't know about other states. He's only lived here in Vermont, but the people he's dealt with here have treated him great, helped him out when he needed help, lifted him up when he needed to be lifted up. And so he's solid with the people that are here.
Okay, so let's this has been very enlightening. And what I'd like to do is allow some room for viewers to comment or ask questions of you. We have I think learned so much in just the time that we've had in your sharing. So let's allow some further conversation to take place through the interaction with viewers. And as we and as far as the viewers are concerned, if you can either voice your questions in person, we can allow you access, video access, or you can place your questions in either the chat box or the Q&A box, and we will read them aloud for you. But while we're doing that, while we're waiting for your questions, I'll share a few questions that I have, and these questions have been partly generated from the conversation I've heard from you. Let's start with one. Presently, the census asks people to identify, and this is a census, as you know, it is constructed um, uh, by a majority white culture. And so there's a category. There are so many categories in the census that it asks you to identify as, and for whites, it is non-Hispanic white. With Hispanics or with Latinos, however you prefer to identify, with this population increasing in number, do you and this is one of the things I am experiencing among whites. I think a lot of whites from Western European backgrounds are very much afraid that their majority culture is going to be diminished and lost. And as far as I'm concerned, I think that is something that we just need to get used to. It's a future that's in the making. I look at it very positively because this is going to create a greater diversity, a greater sharing. But the category for whites now is non-Hispanic whites. With the Hispanic or Latina numbers increasing, do you see this category eventually in fading to include white Hispanics as the norm? In other words, there will no longer be a non-Hispanic whites, especially as Hispanics and Latinas become the majority culture. How do you see those categories, if any, changing? In the early part of American history, as Italians, for instance, as Irish, even as Jews to some degree, became assimilated into the Western European understanding or definition of whiteness, they became absorbed into that non-Hispanic white category. How do you see Hispanics or Latinos, Latinas, Latinx becoming the majority culture, and also as a result becoming the majority white culture in some degrees?
Mhm.
How do you see that changing?
So furthermore, well, we have to really understand that back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was a weaponized tactic from the government of the United States in order to classify any Hispanic, even on your birth certificate, as is in mine. I am not a Caribbean child. I was not born to Carlos Furman or Eridana Santana, who were brown just like you. I was labeled Caucasian. My parents were labeled Caucasian on their paperwork, like some other immigrant children who were born here. They're not anchor babies because I assure you, all of their parents are citizens. They were all classified as Caucasians. That, in and of itself, with respect to the preservation of European accentuism or European culture, I think that that's going to have to really, and I say this with a heavy heart, but that's going to have to fall on the demographic of the Europeans in order for them to make that classification and distinction for themselves and make sure that they carve out that little niche. Now, when it comes to personifying who Latins are, I think it would be very tacky if I were to look on a, first of all, I don't even adhere to those demographics because I think that when it comes to certain jobs, that doesn't matter. If I could do the job, it doesn't matter what skin tone I am or if I'm male or female, I could do the job. However, for some people, it is important. Now, it would be tacky if it would say white Latina or brown Latina or African Latina. That would be tacky. It would be more classy for you to say you identify as a Caribbean Latina or a Spanish or a Latin American Latina or a South American Latino. That would be more significant and respectful and honest to who people are, as opposed to, you know, the race bait card. Because, in all honesty and realistically, that's just that's just a census game that really just doesn't even help anybody. And in recent elections, the Census Bureau has been modified to not even appropriately document people of color, to document people as a majority, the world majority. It doesn't appropriately document people of that tenure. So using those kinds of skin tone, I think we need to think a little bit much more outside the box in that arena with respect to everyone. Now, if Europeans wanted to, make sure that they had a place, well, then make sure that you go down to your voting box and you request that and speak to your voting demographic, or not your voting demographic, but your legislators, speak to your council members, speak to people who are in charge of these kinds of things, and get out there and vote and make those changes if you want that kind of personification and preservation of yourself, because culture is something that is gravely needed to be preserved in Vermont. And with that, I give the time to the rest of my panelists. Please answer.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you.
Cacique, you wanted to say something.
Whew, man. See, this is my problem. And I mentioned this in my intro. Labeling. A quick history lesson. This country was founded on elitism. When the so-called founding fathers of this country fled England, it was because of an unjust rule and taxation and fleeing a corrupt king. But if you look at the Constitution of this country, it mirrors almost word for word the Constitution of England, which is why this country will never go against England, because they're sister nations. Everything that the founding fathers of this country fought against is back. Taxation without representation, elitism. We went through racism. Okay, if you weren't an American born here, you were from everywhere else. The Irish came here. They were discriminated against. The Italians came here. They were discriminated against. What's the difference? The difference is that the Italians, the Irish became cops. Italians built all the buildings and bridges. Okay, they established themselves and they made themselves needed. When we came over, they didn't need us for anything except slave labor. It's a question of keeping us subjugated. We cannot change the system until we change the way we think, and we have to do away with labels. The question about the U.S. Census and will the term white non-Hispanic eventually just turn into white Hispanic? We need to not attribute or give that any power or voice to continue to grow until we say enough is enough. I am not this person. I am not a late. I am not this. I am a human being. Cut me and cut you. We both bleed red. I put on my pants one leg at a time. You put your pants on one leg at a time. Women put their skirts on two legs. However, the point is we are the same. And in our differences is what it should be to make us grow. You know, Allah says in the Quran, in Islam, Allah says in the Quran, I made you different, not to despise one another, but to learn from one another. And we need to understand that we're different, not to hate each other, but so we can learn from each other. Me being Puerto Rican, I can tell someone that has never eaten Puerto Rican food, hey, this is what this is. It'll taste good. Someone from Ireland could tell me something that I don't know about Ireland. And there we learn something different in culture. But as long as the system is in place to keep us divided and to keep us fighting each other, we're never going to get over the obstacle of race and labels. So yeah, it'll be around as long as the government keeps force feeding us into it and pushing that narrative into our face, and we accept it. We have to stop accepting it and then cause a change to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Cacique. We have a couple of questions. One from you are identified as a Zoom user. let's allow you to raise your question, and then we have one from John Larkin who would like to raise a question. Let's start with the Zoom user.
Which one?
Your hand, you have a hand up.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear me, guys.
Yes, I can. I can. Go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if you listen to me, but I'm Federico. I'm from Uruguay, like Gerardo. Actually, we are roommates. ¿Vos me puedes escuchar?
Sí,
Okay.
dale. Pero,
He's in the kitchen. I am in the bedroom. So basically, okay, I'm gonna be short because I know we don't have too
la
much
cámara,
time.
Fede.
La cámara, la gran para la
Geraldo,
puerta.
ponga pon el tono, pon el silencio al micrófono tuyo para que no se escucha
Pon el
él en
silencio,
en el
escucha.
micrófono tuyo.
Actually, I'm looking
Dale.
for the camera. I cannot see the camera. Right
That's
here?
okay. You don't need a camera. It's okay.
Okay, I don't know. It's hard to check in the phone right now. Okay, the thing is, I accomplished like 4 years in March 15 of this year. I came in like 2019. Was really hard. I had like a past and a present in this country when I've been illegal and I'm an American resident. Was super hard at the time. Well, I trying to, recollect some little sharings of the guys from Cacique, from Arlene, from Corali, from Sara. I'm agree with them. And something that's some immigrants, that is sad, but it's a real thing that happened. It's like no every immigrant is here accept that it's racist. That exists and it's true. I have a couple stories, but I'm gonna be a little short. For example, the first months I've been here, I don't know if you know, guys, the Red Rocks is like the park there in what is the Queen City Park. That zone is like a little park who calls Red Rocks. Okay, there is like a little bridge who passed the train under. So I was sleeping there under the train. Nobody knows that. You are knowing that right now. And I have a bike. I was so happy. I say, wow, I feel like powerful here. I have a bicycle. So I was sleeping right next to the rail of the train. And one night passed the train and break my bike. I was so sad. But I remember that night, the night before, I was like, I don't know. Do you know, guys, how can I say hurgar en la basura? Because I don't remember that. Somebody know? Hurgar, buscar en la basura.
Oh, he was searching in
To
the garbage.
scavenge.
He was looking through the garbage. He was
Scavenging.
scavenging in the garbage.
Yeah, I was scavenging in the garbage of Burger King. I don't know if you know the Burger King of Shelburne Road. Well, there, and when I see, it was like 2 patrols. With the lights on, like with that sound. I don't know how can I say that. So noisy, and say, what happened here? And they coming to me. I ran away with the bag. Oh, my heart almost like go outside of my chest. I was so scary. And the people in Burger King looked at me in that way because before I was asking them when my English at that time was worse than now. My English is bad now, but before were worse. And they see me, we can understand what you say, speak English, them, something like that. And I say, oh, okay, what they saying? And I say, well, they cannot understand me. And I never realized they called me them. Okay, doesn't matter. I ran away the fast I can. I was thin than now in that time, imagine. And well, yeah, I arrived there under the bridge and the police cannot catch me. Well, that is why I'm talking with you right now. But the thing is that is true. It's true. The racist is true. And not everybody accept that. And we have to change that like a society, So that happened because the education in this country, maybe it's like an advanced country, America, but they have a lot of, the education of Uruguay sometimes is better than here. Because, the little kids accept that things. And they start saying, for example, I see that in the supermarket, like a white family, like pointing the guys from refugees, I think. I don't remember, but it's like Somali, because I have a friend who was making the CDL school together and was pointing I said, look at that guy, he's so dark. But kids, I can't realize that 6 years, maybe 7 years, kids. But that is true. And I cannot believe in that at the beginning here, because when I come in, I say, no, that racist is from the, from the movies or from the people who, I don't know, have like intention political, I don't know, like political intentions. But that is true. I live in my, I live that for myself. And that is true. I say, hey, I live that, it's so bad. That is one of the things I have to for sure here. And the last one, trying to be short, it's like I was talking with Corali today, this morning, and she said, why you had to do that plan? So basically, I work for Lowe's now. I'm a CDL driver. I drive like a delivery truck, it's a flatbed, and they pay really good. I better now than the beginning. But now I'm trying to train to join the National Guard Army. Why? Because my migration process is taking a little hard time, because I separate of my ex-wife before I accomplish the 2 years temporary residence, the first one. So I don't accomplish together with her the 2 years of residence. So now they are complicating me. I have an extension of 24 months of residence now. So I apply for the 10 years residence. It's the second one that's coming after the 2 years. So in the first 2 years, you are with your spouse, you don't have any problem. But now they are complicating me. I'm with a lawyer now, is Michelle. She is the lawyer of ALLV, Africans Living in Vermont. She's amazing. She's a Vermonter, and she's helping me with that. So now I trying to prepare to join the army. So the army gonna sponsor me. I'm gonna have like political, gonna be enough support to me have my second residence. But I don't like. I try my best to find a way to regulate me, because from the beginning I was honest. I was trying to work here. I pass a lot of things. For example, I have like an ex boss. He was like a concrete company. He told me, hey, I don't like immigrants, but you know what, guys? You are cheaper and you work double of Americans. Like he told me. So I say, yeah, I'm going to have to work with him. It's sad. It's super sad, but that is the way, and not too much people realize that. Not too much people. If you live that, and in that time it was funny because my English was not good. Now I know he say that in front of me. And he say, oh, he say I'm good. Okay, and I keep going, And it was another guy with me from Argentina. He's not here now. He's in the south. I think he's in Miami now, Matias. And he told me, do you see what they say? I say, no, I don't know. I have no idea what they say. And they were saying basically that they say, I prefer immigrants, even when I don't like them, because they are immigrants, but they are cheaper and work better than the Americans. Like American guy, a Vermonter. Well, that is proof, It's like a evidence of the situation of the people here. There is racism, and that exists. And the police, for example, they see, for example, they call the police like a patrol, and when they know I was like a possible illegal, they run for me. And something that I know here in Vermont, suppose the police don't support that kind of activities, but that is not true. So, that is my, I don't know how can I say, his story in some point. Because I don't have too much time here in Vermont. I accomplished 4 years just in March of this year. And also my English is not too good too.
The English is okay.
Oh, well, trying to,
You spoke eloquently.
Yes, you're doing very well,
You're
Federico.
doing very
Habla
well.
bien.
Eloquently.
trying my best. What I want to you understand the ideas at the beginning, and that's matter, And well, I learned a lot today, and I'm really proud to share this Zoom with you guys.
Thank you so much, Federico. And
Thank you too.
I'm so sorry for the complications you experienced when you arrived here in Vermont and the United States.
Thank you,
But,
Arnold. Something. I really happy like the kind of people exist here in America like you, the good Americans, because you are the good people of America. That I say to my people in my country. Not all the gringos. Sorry about that, because we say Latinos too. But not all the gringos are bad. There is good people too in America.
Thank you.
Yeah, really.
Well, you help us to become better.
Okay.
And And we will, I will hope and pray for a productive future for you.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
I guess let's also, there's another questioner, John Larkin. Let's hear from you and have some time for people to respond. We have a few more minutes, but let's take in as many questions as we can. John? Are you there, John? Yes, here he is. You'll need to unmute, John.
Okay, here I am.
Yeah.
This is, okay, I just had algo para Gerardo. I don't know if he knows anything about, vive en Burlington, ¿verdad?
¿Dónde
o
tú vives?
cerca.
¿En dónde tú vives, Geraldo?
¿Me escuchan ahora? Sí.
Sí.
En ese.
In Essex. Okay. Porque in Burlington, there's a place called Mercy Connections, and they offer English language classes. They also offer classes for people applying for citizenship. Now, and it's you know, they offer tutorials, you know, clases individuales, and they offer. Is there somebody there from Mercy Connections, right, waving at us? Anyway, I would recommend, if you have free time, si tiene tiempo libre durante el día, if you're free during the day,
Sí.
You could get on over there. It's on South Champlain, I think it is, in Burlington, just off of Main Street a little bit.
Oh, yeah, Vermont Adults Learning.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, well, if you know where August 1st is, you go down a couple of blocks from them. That's where I get coffee sometimes. And I recommend it. I think they offer some good services there if you want to learn English. And so that's all I had to say. It's not a question then.
Y las clases
Thank
son
you.
gratis también.
Yo te voy a pasar la voz,
perfecto.
los voy a llevar ahí, pero ellos necesitan otro tipo de ayuda. Arnold, I don't know if I can take on a little bit of the question
Go ahead.
regarding race. I wanted to take a little bit of your time just to highlight something very important. We are all from the human race. Okay, I don't know if that resonates with you, but we are all from the human race. Races, like the way they put it, like white in all of this category, it doesn't even scientifically exist. They don't exist. We are all from one race. We are from the human race. Okay, it's starting for that. Their category is unnecessary. It's just wrong from the even beginning, from biological point of view, per se. Okay, so to be able, when they show me, oh, can I have your ethnic background and all of that, I put orders and I literally mark everything in order, because literally I have everything about a little bit of everything. And it is impossible to box me. You cannot box me. No. And this is a strategy about division, divide and conquer, for you to know.
Yeah.
This is not something tangible. This is not something real. This is not that we are, they can classify us for where we come from, or where the color of our skin, or because whatever else, other characteristics. We are all from the human race. They are trying to divide us. They're trying to make us we and them, the others. Always is being that the game. Divide and conquer. If it's not the Italians and the Irish, if it's not excuse me, if not the Irish
and the Latinos, and if not the Latino, the Asians, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's all about division. So I just want to clear up the arena here for everybody to understand that really this is all about division. If we all are seen as brothers or sisters, if we are all seen as a part of the human race, because we are, there's no such a thing, pure Latina, pure white American. They might look white, but inside they might have more African ancestors than you and me. And they don't even know it. It's just, let's actually be real and scientific and biologically correct when we're doing things.
Mhm.
If you want to conquer us, at least tell us that's the reason why you're doing that, but not tell us there's such a thing, and make us everybody believes that we belongs from one group or another. We do all belong to the human race, period. People need to get it right. It's about for this to stop, and it's the division needs to stop, and it started from that kind of categorization, that kind of division, those things on paper that really make us believe that we belong to a different kind of race. There's no other another race. I mean, that's what I know. There's only one race, and it's the human race, and not Latin American race, African race. No.
Yeah.
It's about time we understand our commonality, and it's about time that we raise those kind of we and you and others, and targeting, police targeting, profiling is being very heavily something that done among a lot of community members here, and got better, but is still happening. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Coralie. And I want to thank all of the panelists for being involved in this program. Sarah Childs, Cacique Rodriguez, Coralie, Arlene Furman, Gerardo Gomez, and Federico. You have all been, like I said, you have opened our eyes, you have expanded our hearts, and we also realize that the notion that we are all human beings is, I think, is something that we have at least acknowledged theoretically, but we have difficulty practicing. And so that's an evolution that hopefully we will be moving toward, to truly become human beings. But I think, again, that's an evolution that we are still in the process of becoming. And so let's hope and continue to strive for that acknowledgement. We are made up of different cultures, backgrounds, colors, and that contribute to our humanity, that really affirm our humanity. But hopefully we'll get to that point where our diversity will not be threatened. And race categories and other sort of categories we make is because we're threatened by that diversity. So hopefully we'll evolve into that place where we're no longer. So let's I want to thank you all for being a part of this program. Let you know that in March we're going to be addressing issues of the growing prevalence of racism and violence within our state and in our nation. So we're hoping to bring on individuals who are able to address that matter legally, as well as politically. And so we'll keep you posted as to when that will take place, and hope that you will stay in tune. Again, thank you so much. Be safe, be blessed, and continue to strive to be human. Thank you so much for being a part of us.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you.